Unit 7, Part 2 by Nick, Ethan, and Olivia.
Introduction. At the end of this video, you must know that given an angle on the coordinate plane, you have to find the reference angle, coterminal angles, and quadrants. The unit circle, you need to know how to build it, find the measure of angles with trig functions, and for converting, you need to know how to change radians to degrees, degrees to radians, and for simplifying expressions, using reciprocals, Pythagorean theorem, and quotient identities.
Alright, when you're given a degree, with the example, given 135, the reference angle, you drop a line down to the x-axis, so the reference angle would be 45 degrees. And then to find coterminal angles, you add 360 degrees or subtract it, and that's what that would give you. And with the quadrant, it's whatever side the terminal side falls in, which in this case would be the second. Then for radians, if you're given 7 pi over 6, the reference angle would be pi over 6 because you just drop a line down to the x-axis. Then for the coterminal angles, you would add 2 pi and subtract 2 pi, giving you those two answers. And the coterminal angle would fall in quadrant 3.
This is the unit circle. The unit circle is a circle that has the radius of 1 and is composed of 30, 60, 90 triangles and 45, 90 triangles. Each line goes up 30 degrees, and in between there's 45 degrees. And every 30 degrees for radians you have to add pi over 6, and every 15 degrees you add pi over 12. One full circle equals 2 pi radians, or 360 degrees equals 2 pi. If you use points, you can make a right triangle with the x and y axis. That's it. To find an angle given a point, use the absolute value of x and absolute value of y to create a right triangle. The angle you are attempting to find is theta. You have to use trig functions to find the angle, and you use the inverse of the trig function to find the degree of the angle.
Alright, converting. So using radians to degrees, you would multiply the radian you have by 180 degrees over pi. And so if you had, for example, 5 pi over 4, you would multiply by 180 over pi to give you, and with simplifying, it would just become 5 times 180 divided by 4, and the new degrees would be 225. And there's some tries. And then for degrees to radians, you multiply by pi over 180 degrees. And an example would be, given 30 degrees, find what it would be in radians. So you'd multiply by pi over 180, and you would just simplify it 30 over 180, which would just be 1 over 6, and you add the pi to get pi over 6, and there's tries for that.
So these are the trig identities. There are 3 types: reciprocal, Pythagorean, and ratio. You can see that there's sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent for reciprocal, and those are basically just equal to 1 over the opposite of it. And for Pythagorean, you kind of just have to memorize those, and for ratio, tangent is equal to sine over cosine, and the opposite of tangent is equal to cosine over sine. Okay, so we'll be looking at the first and third example. So the first question is cosecant theta times tan theta. And we see that cosecant is equal to 1 over sine theta by our reciprocal identities, and it's multiplied by tan as well. So if we transfer tan, we get sine theta over cosine theta from our identities. And the signs cancel, or this entire equation is equal to this, and the signs cancel, equaling 1 over cosine, which according to our identities equals secant theta. And our third example here is sine theta over cosine theta times tan theta. And let's take cosine and tan theta first, and that is equal to cosine over sine theta times cosine theta. And the cosines cancel, equaling sine theta, and that, taking the entire equation again, is equal to sine theta over sine theta, and that is equal to 1.
These are examples for a review of what we've done so far, and if you want to do the work, just pause the video. These are the answers.
Okay, so here is our conclusion checklist. You need to know how to find the reference angle, coterminal angles, and quadrants given an angle on the coordinate plane. You need to know how to build a unit circle. You need to know how to find the measure of angles given its exact trig value and use various trig ratios. You need to know how to convert from radians to degrees and the other way around. Lastly, you need to know how to simplify trig ratios. Thanks for watching.